Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Lock Podcast. How you doing tonight? My name is Ben Mostaller, and tonight we are going over the Week One schedule. I got predictions for you. I got sports betting locks. I got daily fantasy lineups if you would do DraftKings and start sit for the week. You're going to get it all here tonight, and that's what we're going to do weekly from here on out. We've prepped for fantasy football all summer. The drafts this past weekend. Did a ton of them: auction league, PPR, super flex. I did them all. I think I had a pretty good team. I was really happy with my auction league team, which is good because that's the most money that I put in to play in. So I hope I get a lot out of it. I got Justin Herbert, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette. I think I'm starting Mike Williams, Cortland Sutton, and then I have Nick Chubb at my flex. So three good running backs there. I believe I got Zach Ertz as my tight end. So I'm all in all, I'm really happy. For a cheap price, I got Amari Cooper. I don't think he'll do anything right off the bat, but for the long run, that's pretty good. Alan Lazard, a guy that I think will go off. So pretty pleased with that, and I'll have to definitely share those with you guys here if you're listening. So let's get into it. Week one, very excited about it. And in all honesty, I think I have a couple locks for you here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can look at the PowerPoint that I have created, and you'll see in green is my locks. So we got 2 pages here. I got 4 locks for you this week, and we'll go over my predictions as well. I'm going to let you know and keep track throughout the season who I think is going to win the games. I'll cover the spread and over under. So let's get right into it. We have the Buffalo Bills at the Los Angeles Rams, the Super Bowl champs, to open up Thursday night football. Right now, the Bills -2.5 on the road in Los Angeles. So where am I going here? Well, I got to go with the Super Bowl champs. I just think that they will be more prepared, ready to go. They might start out to a slow start since it's their first game back the regular season since winning the Super Bowl, so maybe a little bit sloppy there. Both quarterbacks dealing with a little bit of an injury, not anything I think that's going to really affect them in their game. But when I just look at it, I think that the Rams, they got the home field advantage. They have a really good defense, and at this point, I'm going to take them to cover that 2.5 and win outright at home. When you take it over under, it's very tough because right now it's sitting at 52. Now, both of these offenses are high power offense, but they both have good defenses. I think they slightly hit the over, but not much more. It could be less. I'm sticking away from that. I'm not betting that. But if I was betting anything, I would probably take the safest bet here would be the Rams to cover that 2.5. So Rams +2.5 would be my bet if I was betting on this game. Now let's go to Sunday. We have the Saints at the Falcons, and the Saints are favored by 5.5 going into Atlanta. Look, the Atlanta Falcons, they're going to struggle this year. They struggled the last few years with Matt Ryan. Now they're looking at Marcus Mariota with a very young receiving core there. Kyle Pitts will be his second year. Drake London's going to be their wide receiver one. They got Edwards that they brought in, but their team just doesn't look good. They have a very pitiful defense. The Saints are going to be a team that's going to surprise some people this year, in my opinion. They get Jameis Winston. We know he can throw for 30 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, but he might have 30 interceptions with it. But that Saints offense is going to be pretty good. I think Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, and of course Michael Thomas there at the wide receiver spot. Alvin Kamara, one of the best running backs in the league. So they go into Atlanta in a division game, and I think they get the win. I have them covering that 5.5. Could be more, in my opinion. The over under is 42.5. That Saints offense, they can score. So I think the majority of the scoring will be by them. Atlanta might struggle a little bit, but I do believe that it'll get to above that 42.5. Again, the safe bet to play here would be either Saints outright winning, bet the money line there, or the 5.5 to cover. My first lock of the week is going to go with the Carolina Panthers at home. They are 1.5 point favorites, and the Cleveland Browns come into town. So Baker Mayfield in the first game gets to play his former team. You have Christian McCaffrey back healthy for now. He's going to be starting, of course. You bring in Baker Mayfield, who won the job over Sam Darnold, and you take a look at Cleveland, who they really have nobody. They got Jacoby Brissett at quarterback because of Watson being out, who isn't that great of a quarterback. They're going to run the ball with Nick Chubb a lot. I think that's where a lot of the production is going to come from. So if the Panthers can stop the run game, they're going to get the job done. So I love Carolina -1.5 here. I think they at least win by a field goal. So I'm taking that all day. The over under is 42.5. I'm going to go with the under because I do think when you have two new quarterbacks here at the helm, there's going to be some mistakes that happen. The defenses are average. They're not the greatest. So there will be some points on the board, but I do think it hits the under. Again, my lock and the best bet is Carolina -1.5. You might as well just play that. You're going to get a little bit of better of a price than playing the money line. So I'm going Panthers -1.5 for Baker Mayfield's revenge game. We then have the 49ers at the Chicago Bears. The Niners are going with Trey Lance, of course, at quarterback going into Chicago. That's a tough place to play. Chicago will give them a little bit of a run for their money, but I still like San Fran to cover that 7 on the road. I think they win by a touchdown there. I think they do hit the under, though. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game. Again, Trey Lance is his real first start. I know he did last year, but now is the official starter. And the Bears, they're just going to struggle offensively. So not a very high scoring game, but I'm going San Fran. I think that they do cover the 7 on the road, and Trey Lance gets a big win in his first game. All right, so let's move on to the next game. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers as 6.5 underdogs at the Cincinnati Bengals. Pittsburgh, they could surprise some people this year. They do have a good defense, and Najee Harris second year, but you have new quarterbacks, Mitch Trubisky. Now, some people argue that Trubisky is better than Big Ben, and right now, if we compare to last year, probably so. So there's a lot saying that they should do better, but there's just a lot of new pieces in that Steelers offense. Kind of same with the defense too. Um, but when we take a look at Cincinnati, they got to the Super Bowl last year, just couldn't get the job done. Now there's concern with Burrow with a little bit of an injury, but it shouldn't really affect him too much. Um, so I am leaning more towards the Bengals at home to cover that 6.5 and to win the game by a touchdown. I don't think it'll be much more than that. I think Pittsburgh does compete, but in the end, on the road, Cincinnati gets the job done. Now the over under is sitting at 44.5 is a little bit too low for me. I'm going to slightly play the over because, both offenses can put points on the board, especially, Cincinnati with Joe Mixon, Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins. So give me Cincinnati at home -6.5. I want to clarify something. I might have said something back with the Rams Bills game with both quarterbacks kind of being banged up. That's not the case with Josh Allen. For some reason, I was thinking of the Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. So just want to clarify that before we move on. We have the Philadelphia Eagles 4-point favorites at Detroit. And this one is kind of my upset of the week. I have Detroit winning that game at home. That offense, I think, will just do enough to get them to win. I think that Jalen Hurts will be a little bit shaky in his first game back. And we know that Miles Sanders didn't do great last year. Now, the Detroit Lions defense is absolutely terrible. The Philadelphia Eagles defense is much better, but for some reason, I think Jared Goff gets the job done. You got a healthy DeAndre Swift back in the backfield. Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of my biggest sleepers this coming season, one of the guys I really love and had to leave drafts with, even though he's gotten taken from me in a couple that I wanted him in. But I'm going to go Detroit to win outright. The money line, I think, if he wanted to play it safe, he'd probably take the Philadelphia Eagles just to win. But I have Detroit as the underdog winning that game. I'm not taking the +4. I'm going to take them just money line to win. Now the over under 48 and a half is a lot, but again, these two can put up points. So I'm going to slightly play the over if I had to. None of them are locks, but this next game is definitely a lock for me. That's the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. The Colts, they just, even without Carson Wentz, I think it's a little bit of an upgrade to Matt Ryan. You have the best running back in Jonathan Taylor. I think Michael Pittman and Matt Ryan will have that great connection. And Houston, one of the worst defenses, offensively, not that great. So in the first game, I do have it the under, but I'm locking in Indianapolis -7 at Houston. I think that they're going to show what that offense can do. And Dameon Pierce, a guy I'm high on for the Houston Texans. I think he has a slow start because the Indianapolis Colts do have a good defense. So I'm locking that in. We have Carolina -1.5. My second lock is going to be Indianapolis -7 on the road at Houston. Now we have a divisional game between the Patriots and the Dolphins. Right now, the Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites at home, and that's what I'm going to take. The New England offense is not that great. Defense is good, and it'll carry them in that game. Miami, they upgraded their offense, getting Tyreek Hill. Tua looked great in the preseason. They upgraded Chase Edmonds at running back. So I think this team's underrated this year. I think they are a playoff team, and I think they cover that 3.5 at home. Both great defenses, so I'm going to take the under 46.5. Tempted to take Miami as a lock there -3.5, but it's the first week. The Patriots could give them a run for their money, but I think the safe bet would be to play Miami money line, or if you really want to, Miami -3.5. Now we have my third lock of the week. It is Baltimore 7-point favorites at the New York Jets. The Jets are the Jets, right? They are just god awful. They're going to start Joe Flacco. They have Breece Hall, but he looked terrible in the preseason, and that defense is just atrocious. And you have the Baltimore Ravens, who have Lamar Jackson back, potentially have J.K. Dobbins at running back, but if not, Lamar will run the ball. You have the best tight end in the league with Mark Andrews. Now their offenses will be a little bit shaky, I think, to start. So I'm playing under 44.5, but it's a lock. Baltimore -7. I think they easily win by a touchdown. I'd be shocked if it's anything less than that in New York, especially with New York's pieces that are brand new to the team. I think in that first game, they'll struggle against that Ravens defense. All right, we have Jacksonville +2.5 on the road at Washington. I think the Commanders pick up a win against Jacksonville in the first game, and I think it'll be a sloppy, low-scoring game, which is why I'm playing under 44. But I would play Washington to outright win, cover the 2.5. I think is the best play. Carson Wentz on the team, Antonio Gibson, who was a top 10 running back in fantasy last year. You still have Terry McLaurin, and you add Jahan Dotson to that offense for Wentz. Plus, that defense isn't terrible. Jacksonville, they should have a good high power offense, but I think there'll be some issues in the first week. And I think that Washington defense on the road for Jacksonville will be tricky. So that's why I have the Commanders winning that game. Kansas City at Arizona. This should be a high scoring affair. That's why I have over 53.5. Both defenses are just average. I think both Murray and Mahomes light it up, even with the new weapons that they have to deal with. Kind of both of them. Marquise Brown will be the guy now in Arizona with Hopkins out 6 games. Kansas City, Juju Smith-Schuster. But I'm going to go Kansas City to win on the road. However, I have Arizona covering that 6.5. I think it'll be a lot closer. It's going to be a high scoring affair. If you got fantasy guys, you want to play them because I think that they're going to put up a lot of points. But going Kansas City with the win, but Arizona to cover. Another very high scoring, fun game will be the Raiders at the Chargers, a divisional matchup there. The Chargers at home look to be one of the best teams this coming season, and they're bringing back a lot of their same pieces. They got Austin Eckler, Mike Williams at wide receiver, along with, of course, Keenan Allen at wide receiver. And you have, at least in my opinion, the MVP this year, Justin Herbert. And now you bring into the Raiders, who add Devontae Adams to that offense. So I think it's a high scoring affair. That's where I'm playing over the 52. But I do have the Chargers at home covering that 3 and winning that game just because they're home. I think they're going to try to get a big win there in LA. Green Bay at Minnesota. Green Bay only a point and a half favorite. Green Bay losing Devontae Adams here, and their offense has a lot of new pieces. Allen Lazard being the number one. He's a little banged up going into this game, questionable. Romeo Dubs, you have Randall Cobb, just not really big name guys there on that offense. And we remember last year the Packers got killed by the Saints in their first game. I could see that happening in Minnesota. Minnesota is a team that's bringing the pieces back with Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins at the helm, and of course, probably the best wide receiver in fantasy that you can get this year in Justin Jefferson at at the wide receiver spot. So I'm going Minnesota outright to win this game. I think that's the play for this week. Again, it's a game that I'm avoiding. It's not a lock for me, but I'm picking the Vikings to upset the Packers at home. The over under of 47, I think it's going to be under. Again, the first week, both teams have good defenses, so I think it'll be a little bit sloppy, but Minnesota pulls it out at home. Sunday night football, we have the Buccaneers at the Cowboys. TB Tom Brady retiring, then unretiring, will be playing once again this season. On the road in Dallas with some banged up players there. Michael Gallup won't be playing. Wide receiver is kind of thin. CeeDee Lamb is the only guy, along with tight end Dalton Schultz for Dak Prescott. Of course, you still got Zeke Elliott. But I think the play is Tampa Bay minus 2.5. I think that they can go to the Super Bowl this year. So that's where I'm going. Over under is 50.5, which I think is a little too high for these two caliber teams with good defenses. I think it'll be under that. I think that would be the play to go. Again, might be a little bit sloppy because it's the first week of the NFL. So I'd play the under there. And my last lock of the week is on Monday Night Football. Russell Wilson on the Broncos now goes back to Seattle to take on his old team. Right now, Denver's 6.5 point favorites on the road. Seattle's going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. Geno Smith at quarterback, and you got Rashad Penny that's always hurt at running back. Two great wide receivers in Luck and Metcalf, but they really have nobody to throw him the ball. I think Russell Wilson throws for at least 3 touchdowns back in Seattle, and Courtland Sutton will be catching 2 of those balls. That is one of my biggest locks of the week. Probably my guaranteed lock is Denver minus 6.5 on the road in Seattle. So now let's go to the week 1 daily fantasy lineup. So taking a look at this, I'm getting these numbers off of DraftKings. And if you add up all the numbers, we're about $100 shy, or I should say we have $100 left of what the max is for a team. But at quarterback, I am going to pay up a little bit at the 6,900 for Russell Wilson. Again, I think he lights up his old team. The Seattle Seahawks have a terrible defense. He'll be comfortable playing in Seattle. So I like him at quarterback. The running backs, I'm going Alvin Kamara, paying up a little bit to 7,600, but he's going against the Falcons defense, which is atrocious, and he's not being suspended. So I think he comes up big in that week 1 game, along with Nick Chubb with Cleveland, 6,500 for him. He's the only guy they got in Cleveland right now. They're comfortable with him. They always like to run the ball through Nick Chubb. So I am going with Nick Chubb there. I don't think they get the win in Carolina, but I think he'll be the one that keeps them in the game. Now, 4 wide receivers here because you start 3 wide receivers in the daily fantasy over on DraftKings. Number 1 is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Talked highly about him when we discussed the divisional previews. Again, Eagles defense is pretty good. They're going to key in on Amon-Ra, I believe, but that's Jared Goff's guy. I think he's going to be comfortable with him in the first game. I don't think he's going to try to spread it around too much. And I think Amon-Ra St. Brown for the 6,100 is a good price for him in week 1. Then we go to the guy at 5,900, which is fantastic value for Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson's going to throw to somebody, and Courtland Sutton's going to be his main guy. So I love that price there. My third wide receiver will be Robert Woods of the Tennessee Titans, 5,600 for him. The Tennessee Titans at home against the New York Giants. Very bad defense there. Robert Woods is going to be the main guy, and I think he's going to have a good connection with Tannehill. So I like that risk on that price there. Lastly, Rashad Bateman of the Baltimore Ravens going into New York to play the Jets. Again, the Jets defense atrocious. Bateman, the wide receiver one. So besides Andrews, and if you have a banged up running back situation, if Dobbins doesn't play, then Bateman's going to be the wide receiver they throw to. So I like him at the $5,300 price. At tight end, I have Hunter Henry, 3,800. I think that's good value there. Again, we're paying up a little bit for Kamara and Chubb. So Hunter Henry at 3,800 against the Miami Dolphins. I don't think the Patriots win, but he will be one of the top targets for Mac Jones. Last year, Hunter Henry put up two great games against that Miami Dolphins defense. Think it happens again this week. And lastly, the defense. I'm going with Chicago. Only 2,200. They're the second worst defense to buy this week, but defense is not going to win you championships in fantasy football. And same with daily fantasy. You want to spend your money elsewhere. And the Chicago Bears bringing in the 49ers, who have a new quarterback week one. I think this is a all right play for you there. It's not going to outscore some of the other defenses, but again, we're putting our money into our quarterback, running backs, wide receivers. So I'm fine with the Bears at 2,200 there. Lastly, our week one start sit. We got to start Russell Wilson. I've already said it enough. He's going to produce in week one against his former team. I'm sitting Aaron Rodgers. He's going up against a good Minnesota Vikings defense. Last year in his first game, he struggled. I think he only got 3 fantasy points. This year, he doesn't really know who to throw to, so I think it'll be a little bit of a slow start. I'd be sitting him in your leagues. The guy I'm starting is Antonio Gibson, who I got late in a lot of drafts. He was a top 10 running back last year. Brian Robinson had the shooting injury, of course, so he is out. It'll just be him and McKissick. But today, uh, they said that Antonio Gibson is the guy. They're going to feed Antonio Gibson. So in week one, with Jacksonville coming into town, I think Gibson will be fed the ball and he'll have a big week. So I would start him, even if it's at a flex position. I'm sitting Cam Akers playing against probably the best defense in the Buffalo Bills this week at home. A guy that hasn't been consistent because of injury. I think that takes into effect, as well as noting that Darrell Henderson is still going to get some touches. So I don't think he has a big day. I'd be sitting him in your leagues. Start, we said it enough tonight. Courtland Sutton, he is the guy. Russell Wilson's going off. He's going to be the guy to get the receptions. Start Courtland Sutton. I'm sitting Darnell Mooney. I was very excited about Mooney this year, but he was a bust for me in the preseason. A good 49ers defense coming into town the first week of the season. I think that Darnell Mooney is not going to have as big of a game as people expect. And then we look at the tight end, Hunter Henry, a guy that I'm picking up in daily fantasy, a guy to start because he did well versus Miami last year. And the guy to sit is Mike Gesicki this week because he, in fact, had 2 of his worst games last year against the Patriots. So they're going up against each other, but the guy I'm starting is Henry. The guy I'm sitting is Mike Gesicki. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. Hopefully, week one goes well for you. Again, my locks are Carolina at home. Baker Mayfield's going to get revenge on his former team, the Cleveland Browns, -1.5. I also like the Baltimore Ravens on the road, -7 at the New York Jets. I'm locking in the Colts on the road at the Houston Texans, -7. And then, of course, the revenge game for Russell Wilson at Seattle, Denver, -6.5. That is probably my absolute lock of the week. That's what I'm playing this week. If you want to go back, listen to my predictions on the other games, of course you can. Those are my 4 locks. Check out the daily fantasy and the start sit. Hopefully it helps you out this week. But tomorrow night, Thursday night football, the Bills at the Rams, it is back. I'm so excited for this weekend. And hopefully you guys will benefit from this video. Check me out on Instagram at Sports Luck Podcast, on Spotify at Sports Luck Podcast. And next week we'll come back letting you know the results. I'm going to keep track of my record of teams I picked to win, the spread, and the over under to see how I do there. And then we'll look at week 2 next week. So enjoy the first week of football, and you guys have a great day.